So what's happening is for most people, they wait until they feel pain or pressure and then they equalize.
This is freediving instructor trainer Ted Harty with a deepest dive of 85 meters and a longest breath hold of 7 minutes. He is the man behind freedivingsafety.com, and today he shares his insights on Frenzel equalization for freediving.
So the instructors know the problem, the agencies know the problem, but they don't teach Frenzel.
Think equalization is just about popping your ears? It's not. Today we uncover the secrets of the Frenzel equalization technique and why mastering it is key to deeper, longer, and safer dives. Welcome, Ted. Let's dive straight into this with maybe a juicy question. How does the freediving industry currently approach Frenzel equalization? And what do you think is lacking?
So here are the options. They don't teach Frenzel by design, by standards, or whatever. They just don't teach it. They say, come back for the next program. Or they put a slide up on it and they spent like 5 minutes on it. If you're not teaching them Frenzel, you are not giving them the tools to meet the maximum depth of your class, which just seems crazy to me. When I used to teach that in class, it would take me about an hour to really make sure it could be done.
So what you're saying, Ted, is that in beginner courses, there is not enough emphasis on Frenzel equalization. They just spend like 5 minutes on it and that's it. So
yeah,
this problem about teaching equalization, is this related to the instructor, him or herself? Or is this more something, can we see certain patterns under certain education systems?
I think it really has less to do with the agents. I just think it's industry-wide. I mean, when I ask instructors what their biggest problem is, they always say people getting stuck at 15 feet. So the instructors know the problem, the agencies know the problem, but they don't teach Frenzel. They don't give the instructors the skills. The instructors don't have the skills, or they put one slide up and teach it in 5 minutes. And it just leaves the students being frustrated. It makes them think, I can't free dive, and they're going to bounce.
Exactly.
And they're not going to come back. They're just going to go, oh, well, I just can't do that thing. And so
many students have to travel sometimes to the other side of the world to follow a freediving course, and then they get stuck at a shallow depth, and that's it. It's game over. Let's tackle this problem right now in this video. What do you think are the top 3 equalization mistakes you've observed? How can people be conscious about this?
So the first one is, if I'm giving a presentation to a room full of freedivers, spearfishermen, scuba divers, and I'm talking about equalizing, one of the things I always like to start with is say, do me a favor, raise your hand if you've ever come up from a day of diving and felt like there was water in your ear that you couldn't get out of your ear, feel like your hearing was maybe a little bit muffled, or you notice that it gets harder to equalize if you dive 2-3 days in a row. And if I've got a room of 100 people and everyone's being honest, I expect to see 95 hands up. Right? When I was a scuba instructor, that happened to me. Every time I would, I'd be on the boat trying to like shake the water out. The captain's like, no, you got to shake it like this. And I'm like trying to kick the water out. I can't get the water out. I go to the store, I get swimmer's ear, says it right on the bottle, gets the water out. I put the swimmer's ear in. That doesn't work. I go to sleep at night.
Water comes out.
With that ear, but the water still wouldn't come out. I would try to get it to come out. It wouldn't come out, right? So
what's the issue with water coming in the ear?
So in this situation, if you were to go to the ENT and get it scoped, they would diagnose you with Barotitis Media, which I always say is the most common injury in diving that no one's ever heard of. And so what's happening is you're going underwater. This is your eardrum. When you dive underwater, that water pressure makes the eardrum bend to end, and you feel, ow. Right. And so when you feel that ow, you equalize and then it goes back, right? Hopefully you use Frenzel. And then as a freediver, 2 seconds later, it bends in, right? And you feel that ow, and then you equalize. So what's happening is for most people, they wait until they feel pain or pressure, and then they equalize, right? So every time they're getting their eardrum bend and over and over and over again, at some point your body says, hey, you suck at this. You should never be letting my eardrum bend in this far. And you do it every single time. And the body reacts and it fills that eardrum up with fluid, in this case, blood, to make it less bendy, to stop it from doing that, right? So when you feel like there's water in your ear that won't come out after a day of diving, it's not water in your ear, it's blood in your tympanic membrane. And it's because you are waiting until you feel pain or pressure to equalize. So the number one thing I tell people is get into the habit of equalizing before you feel pain or pressure. Equalize, but Ted, I don't need to equalize. That's when you should equalize, not, ow, I need to equalize, right?
Equalize before you feel something.
Yes, right? When you don't need to is when you should. All right, so that's a huge one. The second one, and this is a pet peeve of mine, and I'm sure as an instructor, all instructors have their pet peeves and things that are going to drive them nutty. And this is mine. And I've given it a good name. I'm pretty proud of this name. I've given this the hand dance. And the hand dance is this, right? The students going down, they equalizing, they're kicking, and then they're kicking, and then they're looking, oh, ow. So they equalize again, and now they have their hand over their head, and they're kicking, ah. And they
Did you say the hand dance?
The hand dance. They take
hand dance.
the hand, so they have to equalize their ears. And so they put it here. And then they take their hand and put it as far away as possible from the nose. Ow. And they're right here. And they're, let's put it down here by the side. That'll be cool. And kicking, ow. And they're getting a shoulder workout because they take their hand and they pinch it on their nose, and they're constantly putting it where it doesn't need to be. It's gonna need to be here. It's gonna need to be right there in just a second. So keep it there. Stop doing the hand dance. So we do this. Oh my gosh. Now you don't get a shoulder workout, but it makes it a lot easier to equalize your ears, right? So now here's the problem. So I tell the students, equalize early and often. I tell them, don't do the hand dance. But then this causes a problem. So now they're doing this. And I always said, no. I didn't say keep the nose pinched. I said keep the hand on the nose pocket. Right? So I say keep your hand on the nose pocket so you can pinch the nose when you need to equalize. Right? Because if you keep the nose pinched all the way shut, because Ted said equalize early and often, you may or may not know this, but you also need to equalize that airspace in your mask. And if your nose is pinched, you can't do that. So we've got equalize early and often. We've got don't do the hand dance. So keep your hand on your nose pocket and then pinch it when you need to equalize. Okay. And here's the third one. Third one is, we talk about that you want to be really hydrated, right? So hydrated that you're actually, peeing more clear and not yellow. Are you doing that? And, we also talked about minimizing dairy. Have you tried that? And when I did those things, focused on, early and often, focused on being hydrated, and so I'm not peeing like yellow all the time. When I did those three things, my equalizing problems disappeared. And hydrated doesn't mean like gugging the Gatorade as you jump off the boat. Like hydrating starts the night before. And you may or may not, I'm not saying you, but the folks listening, you may or may not know this, but if you are hungover, that's medically means you're dehydrated, right? Like absolutely, that makes no sense, right? It makes no sense to combine those two. So you want to be hydrated the night before. And then for a lot of people, minimizing dairy will help.
The third mistake would be not paying attention to hydration and
the dairy.
And the dairy, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
awesome, man. So we've touched upon this briefly. Besides Frenzel, there is also another way of equalizing your ears called Valsalva. So what's the deal with this?
All right, so Valsalva, it seems like always shocking to me, but 50% of the people naturally do Valsalva, and 50% of the people naturally do Frenzel. No one taught them to use their tongue as a piston. This just naturally how they do it, right? The problem lies in how do you get those people that are doing Valsalva to do Frenzel. But as far as the difference, Valsalva takes the air that's in your lungs, you compress your lungs, right? You compress these areas, and your throat's open, and you compress that air from your lungs into your ears. It looks like this. Right? Squeezing into the ears. Frenzel takes the air that's in your mouth and shoves it into the ears. Right? And you see this action here that's actually doing the equalization. Now, one of the many problems is if you're watching this, or if you see someone do Valsalva from a power level, Valsalva clearly looks like that's the one with the power. Like if you can't equalize, how is that not more powerful? So when people get stuck equalizing, they revert to, I'm going to Valsalva it, right? But it's infinitely less powerful. And the way I explain that is, if you had one of those 55-gallon drums, like a waist high, like steel can, like big one, and you fill that thing full of water, Valsalva is like hugging that drum and trying to make the water shoot up into the air. Like it's not going to go, it's going to like dribble off the sides, right? Frenzel is like putting your hands in the water and then squeezing it and shooting the water across the pool. right? Because Frenzel, you've got the air all compartmentalized and you're really, you controlling what's happening. So you get much more power with Frenzel. Now, to add more confusion to the issue, I have a lot of scuba divers take the course. I have had absolutely without a doubt, 5 scuba instructors take my course and get stuck at 15 feet. Now, and I would say
that is why?
Because they couldn't Frenzel, because most scuba divers Valsalva. Now, when you're a scuba diver and you use Valsalva, that's fine. You can scuba dive to 200 feet using Valsalva. And so when I'd have scuba instructors come in, and I would say, hey, we need to get on Skype. I'm going to do a Zoom session with you and teach you how to, Frenzel. And they're like, Ted, like I'm a scuba instructor. I teach people to equalize. I don't need to learn how to equalize. Like I teach people this. So you need to know which one you're doing. And to me, I think the easiest way to figure out which one you're doing is right now, if you're listening and you're not sure, right, all you need to do is put your hand on your stomach, other hand on your nose, equalize 5 times in a row, really good. And if you feel your stomach compressing, moving, that's a very good indication that you're doing Valsalva. If you can pinch your nose, put your hand on your stomach, do 5 equalizations, feel excellent equalization in your ears, and feel no movement from your stomach, that's a very good sign that you're doing Valsalva. I mean, that you're doing Frenzel, the Frenzel, the way that we want, right? So that is a kind of a good test to figure out which way. Now, the other thing that confuses scuba divers is or even instructors, they say, well, why doesn't Valsalva work when I've used Valsalva to 200 feet scuba diving? So when you scuba dive, in general, you're in what I call a head up, feet down position. In general, scuba divers descend with their head up and their feet down. They descend this way. So when you descend in that manner, where does the air naturally want to go? Right up to our ears, right where we need it. How convenient, right? When you take a breath off that regulator, what happens to the size of your lungs? They fully inflate. So I always say, like, when you're descending as a scuba diver, equalizing is not that much different than you equalizing sitting in a chair right now. Same body position, everything's the same. Free divers. Now we're head down, feet up. Where does the air want to go? Up to my feet. Where do I need it? Down by my head. What's happening to the size of my lungs? Shrinking, right? That's why it's so much more difficult to equalize on free diving as opposed to scuba.
Can you elaborate just a little bit on this, Ted? Because for my audience, this is going to be difficult to understand. So when you say we're free diving, the lungs, they get compressed. When you're scuba diving, they don't. So what's the difference there? Why is that?
I would say, so when you're free diving, you take one breath at the surface and then we just descend down to whatever depth you're diving to, right? So you're never adding any more air to the equation. So just like if you took a balloon from the surface and you took it to 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 feet, that balloon's going to compress and get smaller and smaller, right? Whereas a scuba diver, when they're at the surface, they take a breath off the regulator and their lungs fill up. Then when they go down couple of feet, they're going to take another breath off the regulator, so the lungs are going to fill up. So they
keep on breathing.
Yeah, their lungs are always filling up. So that's why scuba divers don't have the difficulties of equalization, is they, in essence, always have full lungs, whereas free divers, again, it's like the balloon example, free divers' lungs are always getting smaller and smaller. And so the deeper that you go, the more difficult equalization becomes. That is why scuba divers and scuba instructors struggle in a freediving class, because they're just used to doing Valsalva. So I tell people, and I hate that I have to say this, do not sign up for a freediving class until you can do Frenzel. Don't go there expecting to learn that technique, because unfortunately, the instructor may teach it, they may not have the time, whatever. But the point is, if you don't have it mastered, you're the one that's going to get stuck at 15 feet in your only ocean session, and you're going to be frustrated. So learn that skill before you take a freediving course.
Got it. I get your point. What final advice do you have for people who want to learn equalization?
This is something they need to learn before the class even starts. So I have an online course that teaches that. It's the same step-by-step method that I've used for many years to teach that.
If this content was valuable for you, then check out this video or this video. Peace in every breath.